Seniors, what's the best blood sugar for older adults? Know the truth. Your doctor might tell you your A1C of 6.4 is perfect, but what if that seemingly ideal number is silently pushing you towards a life-threatening crisis? This isn't just about managing diabetes, it's about surviving it. In a shocking revelation that most people still don't know, major medical organizations, the American Diabetes Association, the Endocrine Society, and top geriatric specialists worldwide have quietly updated their guidelines for older adults with diabetes. What they've uncovered could radically change how you understand your health, and frankly, it should make every senior stop whatever they're doing and listen with extreme urgency. This information could save your life or the life of someone you love. For decades, the golden rule was simple. Get your A1C below 7, or even better, push it to 6.5 or lower. The mantra was, lower is always better. But groundbreaking, massive studies following thousands of seniors for years have revealed a jaw-dropping truth for older adults. An A1C aggressively pushed below 6.5 is often far more dangerous than an A1C maintained around 7 to 8. This isn't because high blood sugar has suddenly become safe, but because for seniors, the immediate, terrifying threat of severe hypoglycemia, dangerously low blood sugar, can be exponentially deadlier than the slow, long-term risks of complications. This is a game changer that every older adult needs to grasp right now to protect their future. You won't want to miss the final habit, or 99% will miss the last tip and will be stuck with inappropriate blood sugar management for life. Imagine being 76 years old, diligently following every doctor's order, only to have your perfect A1C of 6.4 nearly kill you. This was the terrifying reality for a man named Robert. One ordinary afternoon, he collapsed in his own kitchen, a victim of severe hypoglycemia. His head struck the counter with brutal force, leaving a deep, gaping gash as blood poured onto the floor. For 20 agonizing minutes, he lay there, his brain starved of glucose, utterly unable to move, unable to cry for help, until his wife discovered him, barely conscious, in a pool of his own blood. It took 2 weeks in intensive care, not because his sugar was too high, but because it was tragically, fatally too low for someone his age. This isn't an isolated incident, it's a silent epidemic of overtreatment. By the end of this critical video, you will know the precise A1C range that current evidence-based medical guidelines now recommend for your age group, a range that could literally save you from suffering the same devastating fate as Robert. But I won't just tell you the numbers yet. If I reveal them now, many of you will simply jot them down and tragically miss the vital context. You must understand the profound reasons why these numbers are different for seniors. You need to see the catastrophic consequences of keeping blood sugar too low in an older body. You absolutely require the complete life-saving picture before I unveil the specific ranges that could dramatically transform your health and safety. Don't risk your future by skipping ahead. Think for a moment about someone in your life. Your mother who's constantly shaky and confused, your father who experienced that terrifying episode last month, or a friend who lives in constant fear of eating. They are likely battling the exact dangers we're exposing. This isn't just information, it's a lifeline. What you are about to discover could prevent a catastrophic fall, protect against permanent brain damage, or avert a life-threatening hypoglycemic crisis for them and for you. Don't let ignorance steal their well-being. This knowledge is too important to keep to yourself. Robert's full story is a chilling wake-up call, a stark illustration of how easily good intentions can lead to profound danger when traditional diabetes targets are rigidly applied to older adults. He was 76 when we encountered his case, a dedicated patient who had managed type 2 diabetes for 15 years. Diagnosed at 61 with an A1C of 8.9, clearly too high, his healthcare team commendably started him on medication and set a clear goal. We need to get you below 7. This was the established, sensible target for preventing severe, long-term complications like blindness, kidney failure, and nerve damage that devastate countless lives. Over the years, The approach to Robert's care followed a common yet increasingly perilous pattern: gradual escalation. The dosage of his primary medication, metformin, was increased. A sulfonylurea, a powerful class of blood sugar-lowering drugs, was added. Eventually, a third medication joined the regimen when his A1C of 7.2 was deemed not quite good enough. By the time Robert reached 76, his A1C was a pristine 6.4. His doctor, genuinely believing they had achieved a monumental success, was absolutely delighted. "This is exactly where we want you," he stated confidently. "Lower A1C means fewer complications. Keep doing what you're doing." On paper, Robert's numbers were a perfect triumph of modern medicine, but beneath the surface of those perfect numbers, a deadly silent threat was rapidly escalating within Robert's body, unseen and unaddressed. At first, the warning signs were subtle, easily dismissed. In late afternoons, especially if his lunch was delayed or he'd been particularly active, Robert would experience unsettling shakiness. His hands would tremble uncontrollably. He'd break out in a light, cold sweat. His heart would pound inexplicably, a frantic drumbeat of alarm. Within 15 minutes of eating something sweet, the terrifying feeling would subside, leaving him drained but relieved. When he cautiously described these episodes at his regular checkup, his doctor reassured him, "That's just your sugar dropping a bit before meals. It's actually a good sign. Your medications are working. Your body is adjusting to healthier levels. Just keep glucose tablets with you and eat regularly." So, Robert, a compliant patient, did exactly as he was told. He carried glucose tablets everywhere, a constant reminder of his precarious state. He ate on rigid, strict schedules, every meal a calculated effort to avoid the dreaded lows. But instead of diminishing, the episodes multiplied with alarming frequency. They were no longer confined to the times before meals. He began waking in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, his heart hammering, a primal terror gripping him. He'd stumble blindly to the kitchen, desperate for anything sugary, and within 20 minutes the normalcy would return, only to be replaced by gnawing anxiety about the next attack. His daughter, witnessing his deteriorating state, voiced her concern. "Dad, you're not yourself. You look on edge all the time." He attempted to explain the constant shakiness, the terrifying night sweats, the relentless anxiety that now governed his life, all while being told his A1C was perfect. When he called the clinic, seeking clarity and relief, the message remained chillingly consistent. "As long as your A1C is good, these symptoms are probably just your body's warning system. It's actually protective. Keep those glucose tablets handy." Crucially, no one asked how often these terrifying episodes truly happened. No one inquired about how low his blood sugar numbers were actually plummeting. His impeccably excellent A1C was not a shield of health. It was a deceptive mask, concealing a growing immediate danger that was being tragically ignored. This is a common, terrifying oversight that traps countless older adults in a cycle of worsening health, all because of an outdated understanding of what good control means. The day everything changed for Robert arrived like any other ordinary afternoon. He had taken his morning medications as usual, had his breakfast at 7:30 a.m. Around 2:00 p.m., while preparing lunch in his kitchen, the familiar shakiness began. But this time, it was different, more intense. His vision blurred, his thoughts slowed to a crawl. He couldn't even recall what he'd been doing just moments before. He desperately reached for the counter, but his legs suddenly refused to respond. He fell. On the way down, his head struck the sharp, unyielding edge of the counter with a sickening thud. He hit the tile floor hard, and blood immediately flowed from a deep, ugly gash in his scalp. He was conscious, terrifyingly, but completely disoriented, unable to think clearly, unable to move, unable to summon help. 20 agonizing minutes later, his wife returned home from the grocery store. She found him on the floor, bleeding and profoundly confused. The paramedics arrived and they did something absolutely critical, something no one at the clinic had done during those months of Robert's good A1C. They checked his blood sugar immediately. The reading? 42, not a bit low. a shocking 42 milligrams per deciliter. This is a level at which the brain literally does not receive enough glucose to function properly, a state of critical deprivation. They swiftly administered glucagon, started intravenous dextrose, and meticulously monitored his numbers as they gradually, mercifully, returned to a safe range. As his mind slowly began to clear, the lead paramedic looked at him and delivered a blunt, life-altering truth. Your medications are driving your blood sugar dangerously low. They're simply too strong for your body, especially at your age. At the hospital, CT scans revealed the grim reality: a skull fracture and a small brain bleed from the impact of his fall. Robert spent a week in intensive care, then another week on the regular ward. Physically, he was incredibly fortunate. There was no permanent brain damage. But psychologically, he was shattered, irrevocably changed. Robert, always independent, always meticulous about following medical advice, was now terrified. Terrified of his own prescriptions. Terrified to be alone in his house. Terrified the next episode would strike without warning, and no one would find him in time. This emotional toll is often overlooked, yet it profoundly impacts the quality of life for seniors struggling with overly aggressive diabetes management. Then came the follow-up appointment, a scene that should deeply concern every older adult currently managing diabetes. His doctor reviewed the recent lab results, including the A1C. "Your A1C is still 6.4, he announced, seemingly oblivious to the recent trauma. "That's excellent control. We'll adjust your medication timing and emphasize regular meals, but we absolutely shouldn't let your A1C go higher. We've worked too hard to get you to this level." To that doctor, an A1C of 6.4 for a 76-year-old represented unqualified success. But to Robert's wife, who had witnessed her husband bleeding and confused on the kitchen floor, it sounded terrifyingly dangerous. This disconnect between a number on paper and the lived, terrifying reality is the core problem that these new guidelines seek to address. Here's the critical, life-altering truth that appointment tragically missed. For a man in his mid-70s, especially one on multiple glucose-lowering medications, an A1C in the low 6 range is not automatically excellent. It can be a hidden trap. Large, rigorous observational studies, specifically focusing on older adults, consistently show that mortality risk often follows a distinct U-shaped curve. This risk is lowest at A1C values hovering around 7 to 8%, significantly higher at very high values, but crucially, also higher at very low values. This counterintuitive finding is why the American Diabetes Association and Geriatric Endocrinology Societies are now explicitly stating that A1C targets for older adults must be individualized, not rigidly set at the same levels used for younger patients. The one-size-fits-all approach is officially and dangerously outdated. For Robert, the immediate overwhelming risk of another severe hypoglycemic episode, another fall, another head injury, another grueling hospitalization was far more real, more imminent than the hypothetical risk of diabetic complications that typically take a slow, insidious 10 to 20 years to develop. Robert's near-fatal collapse was not some unavoidable tragedy. It was the predictable, tragic result of applying aggressive middle-aged diabetes targets to an older body with vastly different physiology, altered medication responses, and a fundamentally shifted risk profile. If his care team had simply recognized the subtle yet persistent warning signs, the frequent shakiness, the terrifying night sweats, the constant anxiety about food, as undeniable evidence of overtreatment, Robert would almost certainly never have hit that kitchen floor. This insight is powerful. It empowers you to advocate for safer, more appropriate care. Pause for a moment and reflect. Have you, or someone you know, ever experienced a low blood sugar episode that genuinely frightened you? A time when confusion clouded your mind, sweat drenched your body, your hands shook uncontrollably, and clear thought vanished. If this sounds familiar, it's a profound signal. Your body is screaming a clear message. Your current treatment plan may be far too aggressive for your age and specific condition. This isn't just discomfort, it's a warning system malfunctioning, putting you in direct harm's way. Ignoring these signs is playing Russian roulette with your health. As an older adult, your body responds profoundly differently to low blood sugar compared to a younger person. This is why a dangerous phenomenon known as hypoglycemia unawareness becomes so prevalent and deadly. In many seniors, the classic immediate warning signs, the hunger, shakiness, sweating, rapid heartbeat, become drastically less reliable or even disappear entirely. Your blood sugar can plummet to a critically low 50 or even 40 mg/dL, and you might feel only slightly off, or tragically, nothing at all, until sudden confusion, slurred speech, or a complete collapse strikes with terrifying speed. A long duration of diabetes, a history of repeated low episodes, and the natural aging process itself all combine to diminish this crucial early warning system, leaving you vulnerable. Here's a deeper look into why this happens. In younger individuals, when blood sugar drops below roughly 70 mg/dL, the body immediately triggers a potent release of hormones such as epinephrine, adrenaline. These hormones induce those uncomfortable but vital warning symptoms: the jitters, the racing heart, the sweat. These symptoms, however unpleasant, serve a critical, life-saving purpose. They alert you to consume something sugary immediately before your blood sugar reaches dangerously low levels that can harm your brain. But after years of living with diabetes, and especially after experiencing multiple, repeated low blood sugar episodes, these finely tuned warning systems become blunted, worn down. The hormonal response weakens, the critical symptoms fade, or, alarmingly, vanish entirely. You lose your early warning system precisely when you need it most, dramatically increasing your risk for catastrophic events. Your metabolism also undergoes significant transformations with age. Kidney and liver function, crucial for processing and eliminating medications, tend to gradually decline. Your very body composition shifts, with a relative increase in fat and decrease in muscle mass. This means that the exact same dose of a sulfonylurea or insulin that was perfectly safe and appropriate for you at age 55 can have a much stronger, more prolonged and dangerously unpredictable effect at age 75 or 80. Medications linger in your system for extended periods, continuing to pull your blood sugar down for hours beyond what they might have done in your younger years. Compounding this, your body's innate ability to counter-regulate, to release stored glucose from the liver when blood sugar drops, also weakens significantly with age. All these physiological changes culminate in older adults facing a substantially higher and often unrecognized risk of severe prolonged hypoglycemia, fundamentally altering your personal risk-benefit calculation for diabetes management. When you were 50, rigidly keeping your A1C below 7 made complete and logical sense. You had decades stretching ahead during which persistently high blood sugar could slowly and insidiously damage your eyes, kidneys, and nerves. Preventing those devastating long-term complications was absolutely worth the diligent effort and the comparatively small risk of hypoglycemia. But when you are 75 or 80, the entire situation shifts dramatically. The theoretical long-term benefits of ultra-tight blood sugar control may in fact never materialize, simply because those specific complications take a lengthy 10 to 20 years to fully develop. Meanwhile, the immediate, terrifying harms of severe hypoglycemia, the falls, the fractures, the traumatic head injuries, the strokes, the heart attacks, the permanent brain damage, can happen tonight, tomorrow, or next week. This is not a distant threat, it's a clear and present danger. A single severe hypoglycemic episode in an older adult can unleash a cascade of catastrophic events. It can trigger a fall that leads to a debilitating hip fracture, which then necessitates surgery, which can lead to life-threatening pneumonia, and tragically, to death, all within a matter of weeks or months. It can cause a devastating car accident. It can directly trigger a heart attack or stroke. It can even cause irreversible brain damage if glucose deprivation is severe enough or lasts for too long. These are not abstract theoretical risks discussed in medical journals. These are immediate, tangible dangers that victimize thousands of seniors every single year, often disguised as natural aging or bad luck. You deserve to know the truth. Beyond the stark medical risks, there's also the crucial aspect of quality of life to consider. Obsessively maintaining an A1C at a hypervigilant 6.2 or 6.4 often demands relentless vigilance. Frequent blood sugar testing 6 or 8 times a day, rigid adherence to meal timing, the constant, draining fear of eating anything outside a meticulously planned schedule, and pervasive anxiety surrounding every medication dose. For a younger patient, aiming to prevent complications over 4 decades, that demanding trade-off might be acceptable. But for a 78-year-old who yearns to simply enjoy meals with family, travel spontaneously, and relax without constant medical anxiety, a slightly higher yet stable A1C in the 7 to 8% range with no frightening lows can mean immeasurably more freedom, greater autonomy, and a vastly improved daily living experience. Consider for a moment what diabetes management at very tight targets actually means in your daily life. It means your entire day might revolve around blood sugar checks, eating schedules, and the ever-present fear of a crash. It means potentially turning down invitations to social gatherings or travel opportunities because you're worried about managing your blood sugar in unfamiliar situations. It means a life overshadowed by constant fear and anxiety, robbing you of joy and spontaneity. For many older adults, this relentless level of restriction and worry, this emotional burden, actually reduces their quality of life far more significantly than a slightly elevated yet stable blood sugar would ever do. This is why the new guidelines prioritize your well-being, not just a number. So what do these pivotal new guidelines actually say? Major diabetes organizations, including the American Diabetes Association, now explicitly recommend that A1C goals for older adults must be individualized. This personalization is based on a holistic assessment of your overall health status, your projected life expectancy, the presence or absence of existing complications, and, most importantly, your specific risk of hypoglycemia. These targets should not simply be copied verbatim from the guidelines designed for younger patients. The American Diabetes Association's authoritative standards of medical care now specifically categorize older adults into different groups, each requiring a tailored, nuanced approach. For healthy older adults who maintain intact cognitive and functional status, the guidelines cautiously suggest considering targets similar to younger adults, but with meticulous attention to hypoglycemia risk. This nuance is absolutely vital. For those with multiple coexisting chronic illnesses or who experience moderate cognitive or functional impairment, less stringent A1C goals become not just appropriate, but often safer. And for those in long-term care settings or with a very limited life expectancy, the entire focus should fundamentally shift away from rigid A1C targets altogether and move squarely toward the singular, paramount goal of avoiding symptomatic hypoglycemia and the devastating consequences of excessively low blood sugar. This is a profound reorientation of care, placing patient safety and dignity at the forefront. Many expert guidelines now strongly suggest that for healthy, independent older adults with few other medical problems and no history of severe hypoglycemia, reasonable A1C goals are often around 7.0 to 7.5%. This is a significant departure from the traditional below 7 mandate. For those with multiple medical conditions, some functional limitations, or a higher baseline risk of hypoglycemia, even more relaxed goals, typically around 7.5 to 8.0%, are frequently appropriate and demonstrably safer. And for very frail seniors, those facing limited life expectancy or individuals with a documented history of severe hypoglycemia, some guidelines go further, allowing A1C targets of 7.5 to 8.5% or even higher, with the crystal clear priority being the absolute prevention of dangerous lows and the preservation of crucial quality of life. This is about living, not just surviving. Let me be absolutely unequivocally clear about the significance of this. These are not fringe opinions circulated by alternative medicine gurus. These are not radical, unproven theories. These are the official, evidence-based guidelines from the most mainstream, established, and conservative medical organizations in the entire world: the American Diabetes Association, the Endocrine Society, and the American Geriatric Society. These esteemed organizations are now explicitly stating in no uncertain terms that for a substantial number of older adults, A1C targets should be higher than the rigidly traditional below 7 goal. They are saying this not as a matter of preference, but because the overwhelming scientific evidence conclusively shows that it is safer. These are not personal opinions or anecdotal observations. These are established patterns derived directly from robust, evidence-based guidelines published by major medical organizations. While your own personal target must always be carefully decided with your doctor based on your unique and complete medical situation, these pervasive guidelines make one thing chillingly clear. If you are in your 70s or 80s, if you are on multiple diabetes medications, and if your A1C is currently in the low 6s, while you are simultaneously experiencing symptoms of frequent low blood sugar, that is not excellent control. It is, in fact, a flashing red warning sign that your treatment regimen may be dangerously aggressive, putting your health and safety at unacceptable risk. Let's look at a real-life illustration of this crucial difference through the experiences of two women, Sarah and Helen, to truly see what this looks like in practice. Sarah, a 72-year-old, was active and diligently proud of meticulously following her doctor's advice. For years, her A1C hovered around 7.8. Her doctor, adhering to outdated guidelines, wanted it firmly under 7, so he added another medication. 6 months later, her A1C was a commendable 6.9. Her doctor was absolutely pleased, but Sarah felt anything but. She felt utterly exhausted. The preceding months had been plagued by terrifying shaky episodes in late afternoons, waves of debilitating anxiety before dinner, and on 2 occasions, her worried husband had to physically catch her arm when she wobbled precariously while standing up. One night, she woke up drenched in cold sweat, her heart racing with panic, her blood sugar a terrifying 58. She ate something sweet, but then lay awake for an entire hour, too frightened to dare sleep again. At her follow-up appointment, she desperately tried to articulate her distress. "I feel awful. I'm scared to drive." Her doctor, focused solely on the numbers, pointed to her A1C with satisfaction. "But look at this," he countered. "You're finally under 7. This protects you from eye and kidney problems. We just need to fine-tune your meals." Sarah left that appointment feeling completely unheard. And more importantly, she remained dangerously overtreated, her legitimate fears dismissed in favor of an arbitrary number. Her quality of life was plummeting, and her safety was compromised, all under the guise of good control. This is the tragic outcome for too many older adults. Now, compare Sarah's story to Helen, age 78, who faced a remarkably similar experience but achieved a profoundly different life-affirming outcome. Helen's A1C was a perfect 6.7 on paper. In stark reality, she was waking 3 nights a week drenched in sweat, paralyzed by terror, stumbling blindly to eat glucose tablets. Her entire waking life revolved around rigid meal schedules and a constant, consuming worry about the next devastating low. When she bravely brought these concerns to a new doctor, instead of blindly celebrating the number, this clinician did something revolutionary. He asked her to keep a 2-week log of her blood sugar readings and her symptoms. That meticulously kept log exposed the hidden truth her perfect A1C had so effectively concealed. Multiple readings shockingly in the 50s and low 60s, particularly overnight and in the vulnerable late afternoon hours. Based on this undeniable patient-driven evidence, they strategically reduced one of her high-risk medications. Her A1C gradually safely came up to 7.4. The scary, debilitating lows stopped entirely. She finally slept soundly through the night, her energy levels surged, and her real-life activities triumphantly returned. She eagerly went back to her beloved book club and joyfully attended her grandchildren's games. Here's the absolute key: nothing magical happened. At 7.4 itself, what truly transformed was the delicate life or death balance between benefit and harm. At 6.7, Helen's diabetes looked impeccably controlled on paper, but it was actively wrecking her sleep, shattering her confidence, and gravely compromising her physical safety. At 7.4, she still maintained undeniably reasonable control, but the immediate terrifying danger of severe lows was dramatically reduced. For a woman in her late 70s, that fundamental shift is immeasurably more valuable than a perfect number that comes bundled with constant, soul-crushing fear. So, how do you translate this critical understanding into decisive, life-saving action? Start by meticulously collecting the precise information your doctor needs to make an informed decision. For 1 to 2 weeks, regularly check your blood sugar at strategic times. This means fasting in the morning, before 1 or 2 key meals, occasionally 2 hours after eating, and crucially, before bed. You don't need to test every single hour. You need meaningful data. Each time you test, diligently note 3 things: the exact number, the precise time, and most importantly, how you feel: shaky, sweaty, confused, or perfectly fine. Did you just exercise? Did you accidentally miss a meal? If you ever see numbers below 70 mg/dl, make sure to circle them prominently. Those are definitive, undeniable lows that demand immediate attention. If you see numbers below 80 mg/dl and feel even slightly unwell, highlight them. In older adults, even borderline lows can be incredibly dangerous, especially if they occur repeatedly or during the vulnerable overnight hours. Furthermore, meticulously document any other concerning events: falls, times you felt so weak you had to sit down suddenly, or any episodes of confusion or difficulty thinking clearly. This comprehensive log is your most powerful tool. Then, bring this detailed, irrefutable log to your next appointment. When your doctor confidently states that your A1C is good, you can respond with calm conviction. I appreciate that, doctor. However, I want to show you exactly what it takes for me to maintain this A1C. Here are my recent blood sugar readings and a log of my symptoms. I've had lows plummeting into the 50s. I've endured nights of severe sweats and debilitating confusion. Frankly, I'm genuinely worried my current treatment is far too strong for my age and body. Now, instead of engaging in a frustrating argument about a single isolated number, you are presenting a complete, undeniable picture. Your A1C combined with your real-life hypoglycemia episodes, and crucially, how you actually feel. You are effectively reframing the entire issue as one of safety and quality of life, which are now recognized as central, non-negotiable priorities in modern diabetes care for older adults. A reasonable, up-to-date clinician will immediately recognize that an A1C in the low 60s, coupled with frequent, distressing symptoms, is not good control. It is a blatant sign of overtreatment that demands immediate adjustment. Here's the precise, empowering language to use with your doctor to advocate for yourself effectively. You might begin with, "I've been learning about the current guidelines from the American Diabetes Association regarding A1C targets for older adults. I understand that for people my age, especially those experiencing frequent hypoglycemia, targets of 7 to 8% may actually be safer than very low targets. Can we have an open and honest discussion about whether my current target is truly appropriate given my age and the symptoms I've been experiencing?" This approach is not confrontational, it's informed and collaborative. Instead of saying, "I want my A1C higher," which might sound non-compliant, try a more strategic phrasing. "I want to proactively reduce my risk of severe hypoglycemia and falls. I want a treatment plan that truly matches my unique physiology and age." Then, reinforce with evidence. Many current guidelines specifically allow A1C targets of 7 to 8% for older adults like me. Could we explore adjusting my medications to safely reach a more appropriate and safer range? This shifts the conversation from a subjective desire to an evidence-based medical necessity, emphasizing your health and safety above all else. You should also proactively inquire about your specific medications. Ask directly, "Are any of my current drugs particularly likely to cause dangerous lows at my age? Given my symptoms, could we consider simplifying my regimen or switching to alternative options with a significantly lower hypoglycemia risk?" It's crucial to know that older sulfonylureas, such as glyburide, also known as glibenclamide, and glipizide, are notoriously well known for causing severe and unpredictable lows in seniors. These medications operate by forcing the pancreas to release insulin regardless of your current blood sugar level, which can lead to dangerously abrupt and prolonged drops. Certain insulin regimens, especially if doses haven't been meticulously adjusted as you've aged, can also pose significant problems. Conversely, newer medication classes such as SGLT2 inhibitors like canagliflozin, empagliflozin, GLP-1 receptor agonists like semaglutide, liraglutide, and DPP-4 inhibitors like sitagliptin, saxagliptin tend to carry a much lower hypoglycemia risk when used appropriately. While they aren't suitable for everyone and come with their own unique side effects and costs, simply discussing them with your doctor signals that you are actively seeking safer, more modern options, not trying to abandon diabetes management altogether. This positions you as an engaged, informed partner in your care. If, after a thoughtful, evidence-based conversation where you presented your log and cited current guidelines, your clinician still expresses reluctance to consider adjusting your targets, you have a right to press further. Politely ask, what specific evidence are you using to determine that my current A1C target is appropriate for someone my age with my health status? Can you show me the official guidelines that support this specific target for older adults? This question, posed politely but firmly, directly challenges them to justify their recommendations based on current evidence rather than entrenched habits or outdated protocols. If, even after this direct, informed dialogue and presentation of clear evidence, your clinician steadfastly refuses to even consider adjustment, it may be a crucial moment to seek a second opinion. Ideally, this should come from a healthcare professional with specific, demonstrated expertise in geriatrics or diabetes management in older adults. You are not being difficult or non-compliant. You are passionately advocating for evidence-based care that is precisely tailored to your age, your unique body, and your immediate situation. Your life could depend on it. One final, incredibly moving story before we conclude, truly encapsulating the profound impact of appropriate versus inappropriate care. Michael was 81 years old and his A1C was a respectable 6.8. His doctor again was pleased, but Michael had mysteriously lost a staggering 15 pounds over just 6 months. He was constantly weak, perpetually tired and utterly exhausted. He had stopped attending his beloved card games and isolated himself from his friends. His worried daughter feared he was sinking into depression. When his comprehensive blood sugar log was reviewed, the problem immediately became crystal clear. He was consistently running between 60 and 90 mg DL for most of the day. While technically good control by old standards for an 81-year-old, those numbers were devastatingly, dangerously too low. His body was suffering from chronic mild hypoglycemia. Not dramatic, acute episodes, but a constant, subtle deprivation of glucose to his brain and muscles, slowly draining his life force. We swiftly but carefully reduced his medications. His blood sugar gradually, safely, came up to a more appropriate range of 100 to 150 mg/dL. His A1C, in turn, settled at 7.2. Within a miraculous 3 weeks, Michael underwent a profound transformation. His energy emphatically returned. He triumphantly gained back 8 pounds. He joyfully returned to his card games and reconnected with his cherished friends, his depression lifting. His previous doctor regrettably was upset, convinced we had let his diabetes get worse. But Michael's diabetes hadn't gotten worse. His quality of life had gotten dramatically, unequivocally better. He wasn't just existing, he was truly living again. That ultimately is what this crucial message is truly about. Living your life to the fullest, embracing and enjoying your remaining precious years, not sacrificing everything for a single arbitrary number on paper that may not even be appropriate for your unique age and specific situation. So if you are an older adult living with diabetes, or if you deeply care for one, here are the absolutely vital takeaways you must engrave in your mind. First, Those extremely low A1C targets that made perfect sense at age 40 can become alarmingly risky and counterproductive at age 75 or 80. The game has changed, and so should your strategy. Second, your symptoms. That unsettling shakiness, those terrifying night sweats, the confusing episodes, the dangerous falls matter as much, if not more, than your laboratory results. Your body is communicating critical information. Learn to listen. Third, for a vast majority of seniors, especially those managing other medical conditions, the safest and most optimal place for your A1C is firmly in the middle. Not wildly high and uncontrolled, but critically, not aggressively low and dangerously unstable. Aim for a moderate, stable range that meticulously protects against both the long-term harms of hyperglycemia and the immediate catastrophic dangers of severe hypoglycemia. The paramount goal of diabetes care in older adults is no longer a quest for unattainable perfection. It is fundamentally about protection. Protection of your precious brain so you can continue to think clearly, maintain your independence, and cherish your memories. Protection of your muscles and bones so you can stand, walk confidently, and move freely without fear of falls. Yes, protection of your kidneys and heart is still vital, but never at the devastating cost of life-threatening lows. Use your unique story, your documented numbers, and your powerful voice. Bring your detailed log. Articulate your symptoms clearly and courageously. Demand and ask for A1C targets that truly fit your age, your specific physiological reality, and your personal goals for living a full, safe life. And never ever change your medications on your own. Every single adjustment should be meticulously made in collaboration with a skilled clinician who genuinely understands that in older adults, safe and steady is profoundly, unequivocally better than aggressively low and dangerously unstable. If this critical video has armed you with information that could help prevent a severe low blood sugar episode, if it could help you avoid a debilitating fall, or if it could significantly improve your overall quality of life and peace of mind, please share it widely. Share it with every friend over 65 who has diabetes. Share it with your beloved parents. Share it with anyone on diabetes medications who is experiencing scary lows or battling constant debilitating anxiety. This knowledge is a gift of life and well-being. You now understand that diabetes management is profoundly different for older adults. You know with absolute certainty that an A1C below 7 is not the right target for everyone. You comprehend the general, life-saving patterns from current guidelines for different age groups and complex health situations. You are now equipped to recognize the telltale signs of dangerous hypoglycemia. You know precisely what to discuss with your doctor, armed with evidence and confidence. Use this invaluable information wisely. Be your own strongest advocate. Work collaboratively with your medical team. Your health, your safety, and your irreplaceable quality of life depend entirely on securing diabetes care that truly fits your age, your unique body, and your most cherished goals. Subscribe. Which advice will you start applying today?